you. With no further ado, our guest today is Shalisa James.
Hello, Beth. Woohoo!
Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great, doing
Good,
just great.
good, good, good. As you know, I am so excited. I've anticipated getting to know you. Just for our audience, we've really never met.
We
Beth
haven't.
talks are always kind of off the cuff, in the moment, spontaneous conversations that we have, our own experiences that we create between you and me, and for our viewing audience pleasure as time goes on. So much to say about you. I kind of do not know
Mhm.
where to begin. You are an artist, you are an entrepreneur, you are an amazing vocalist whose voice people probably recognize without realizing who it is behind that voice. You
I've
have
done a lot of jingles, so that's a little secret. I've done a lot of jingles, so I'm like the almost famous type.
the almost famous, the
Yes,
like the Wizard of Oz, the behind the screen,
behind the
one who's
curtain.
pulling all the buttons and making it
That's
so
right, and I
glamorous.
love it that way.
You also have been nominated for a Grammy.
That's right. I have been part of a vocal group for over 20 years called Toxic Audio, also known as Vox Audio. And we did an off-Broadway run in New York, did a couple runs in Vegas, and during our time in New York, we got to sing on a Broadway stage with a lot of Broadway stars got together for Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, and we did this big concert version of Hair. And
Oh,
we did it live in the Lion King Theater. It was incredible. And from that, they decided to do a soundtrack for that musical. And I actually had the solo on our track, which was Electric Blues, and it was nominated for a Grammy.
oh my goodness!
So
You say
yeah, through
that
my
like
group Toxic Audio.
don't we all do this? Don't we all have Grammy nominations? No, we do not. So kudos to you for that, and for so many other
Thank
things.
you.
You mentioned jingles. Are you able to say some of the jingles whose voice you're behind?
Oh, sure. I've done a lot of local and regional ones. I've done some national ones, like "Shouldn't You Be Seeing 2020 Eyeglass Superstore." I did the Bucks theme song, which was an incredible honor. They were playing it in the stadium for years, and I'm a huge Bucks fan. So I would go to the Bucks games as season ticket holders and actually hear my voice going, "Feel the power." And
Oh
it was
my
the
God,
Bucks
how
theme song.
fun is that? And were you looking around like, that's me, that's me, that's
What's
my
funny is I
power?
kind of go, and everybody in my family is like, "That's her."
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. So you have been recognized what on many stages. What was it
And
like?
another a crazy thing that I did voiceover wise, and it's really how I started in voiceovers. A very eclectic fan group, but any 80s kids might remember Showbiz Pizza. I was the voice for 8 years of Mitzi Mozzarella, the singing cheerleader mouse in Showbiz all across the nation. So we would record here in Orlando, Florida, and I was Mitzi's voice. Anytime you go into Showbiz Pizza, I would be the one singing to you.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. So yes, it's funny when we talk about jingles. My husband and I are very attuned to like commercials, and I can hear my husband like even in the evening still singing verses or choruses from something we heard early in the morning. Oftentimes we have no idea what the product was,
Isn't
but
that
we
funny?
remember the jingle.
But the music sticks with you, which is why it's I mean, music is just the universal language and transcends everything, and
Yes,
it really is a smart way to market and advertise.
yes, yes. So your talent clearly speaks and sings for itself. Even your
Oh,
name
thank
has
you.
melody to it, Shalisa. It's very melodic. So they always say, watch what you name your children because you somehow give them maybe a destiny or something. When did you recognize, or when did others recognize this power, this skill that you have? Because you started
It's
as a child.
it's funny, I didn't even know that you could do anything different because my parents were both singers and I'm an only child. So they went back and forth between they would do a lot of church concerts,
Hmm.
and then they would do some pop shows and everything in hotels and for corporate events. So I ran back and forth between those two worlds pretty smoothly. And starting when I was a year and a half, they taught me a little song, and I got on stage with them, and by the time I was 5, we were singing in three-part harmony.
Oh, how beautiful. What was that
Yeah.
song?
We did a lot of different songs of like, just some classic hymns, like He Touched Me. The song they taught me to sing when I was a year and a half old was actually He Touched Me. And
Oh, how
they would
beautiful.
get me up on stage just as a tiny little kid. I wish we had video like phones back then.
Yes, yes, a lot
We've got
removed, but
pictures, but no video evidence.
no, but the memories that no one could ever take away from you or for your very proud parents, I am
Exactly. And
so
so I didn't
sure.
really think that it was anything unique as far as a career choice because the whole time I was growing up, my parents were in the business and my dad still actually plays dueling pianos full time. He plays for Universal at Pat O'Brien. So it's something that's definitely in the family in our blood. And now my two of my three kids are entertainers too. So
Oh, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that well,
yeah.
you hear of legacy families, who's in medicine, who's in law, who are firefighters, police officers. So your DNA is purely music. So you really found your place both professionally and I'm sure personally the joy. See, I'll admit this to you. I'm the person who loves to sing. Music is truly in my heart, but it doesn't come out of, well, it does come out of my voice. It's just no one wants to hear it.
Well, that's the thing about even the reason that I'm sharing this message now is because unlike an analogy where you can use, analogies from the real world, but it doesn't really track with people because it's not in them. For all of us, we experience some sort of joy from the resonation of singing, like when your voices resonate as a group, especially. It's there's something magical about it that transcends even who cares about the skill set. Even with my audiences, I get them to sing a little bit, and it's because experiencing that in a group setting and how great it is when voices come together. There's something about that that's magical and meaningful.
You're right, and universal, as you say, we all can enjoy it to our own extent. And I always said, when you sing, you pray twice. So when you talk about the hymns, and I sing very loudly and proudly in church, people still sit next to me. I don't know, I don't see them covering their ears, but it goes way back when I was a child, and I don't know what it was, but I think I was singing a lot. And a couple of people very near and dear to me would say, Beth, stop singing, stop singing. So it became something. Remember the line from Pretty Woman? When you hear it enough, you start to believe it.
Yes,
I
yeah.
I believed I couldn't sing, so I would
Oh,
almost, in my love and desire to sing, I think I tried to make it sound not great, so that that was just how I was known, kind of a thing. But I recently sang Happy Birthday over the phone to one of my longest, dearest friends. She's like a sister. And when she called me back, she said, Beth, that didn't sound half bad.
aw, that's awesome.
So
Yay,
I
all you
think that,
probably needed was a teacher or a coach that believed in you.
well,
A
and
lot of times when a lot of times when people sing, and this is something that I learned from many years vocal coaching and being a voice teacher, if they sing and people think they're tone deaf, they're actually not tone deaf. A lot of times they are either singing a harmony part that just isn't quite right, but they're hearing it in their head, or they're singing kind of the melody line, but it's in an area that's comfortable for their range. Where when we sing, a lot of times our range is bigger than when we talk. So they're
Mhm.
singing the melody, but they're kind of cheating and singing it in their that middle part of their speaking range. Or a lot of times they're hearing a harmony part and they just don't quite know how to fine tune
Interesting. Well, I'm definitely cheating, and I'm cheating my listeners
it.
from a great experience. But I still sing, and my husband says, "No, you sound so good." And my dad, bless his soul, used to say, "Boy, you really love her. If you're going you really,
I
really
would say
love
love isn't only blind, sometimes love is deaf too,
her." So there you
to the
go.
music we make.
There you go. Thank you. But and my mother used to say, "But you know what? Music is in Beth's heart," and I think that's all that matters. That's
And
all.
there is something incredibly fulfilling and transforming. Like you get goosebumps if you've ever been to a concert and everyone's singing and swaying, that collective harmony or making music together. you get goosebumps. Like there's nothing like it.
Oh, it pierces my heart and my soul. And I always wonder at a movie where there's a great soundtrack and, the big booming theaters and everything, I'm always moving. I'm always feeling it. And other people, I go, how can people sit still? Don't you feel this? And yes, music is a very emotional experience for me. I should
That's right.
highly recommend that. Yeah, people
And
tell me,
for me, it gives such meaning that now that I've been able to share this message of how harmony and the principles of harmony translates into families, and it
yeah,
also really translates into the corporate world. And a lot of what I've been doing recently is sharing how the principles of making harmony, because I spent, over 20 years coaching professional groups and coaching collegiate groups and school groups on fine tuning harmony and really mastering harmony. And as somewhat of a harmony expert, I started realizing how those ideas really translate into the corporate world. For example, and this is just like a small example. If you have a major chord, it's bum 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 bum, and it's nice and happy and bright if all three of those notes are playing at the same time. All you have to do to make it sad or scary is make a minor chord, and these notes are the same. Bum, bum. One person or one group has to change their one little part, which is that middle note, just a half step. So it goes bum, bum, bum. All
oh,
of a
yeah.
sudden, you have a completely different mood, a
It
completely
it
different
feels it
chord.
feels more suspenseful. It's so
Exactly.
when you're watching TV or movies, if you're watching it without the sound, it's a completely different experience because they create that suspense, that
Right.
mystery, that joy, that love. Yes, music
And
is
so the major chord versus the minor chord, the only difference between those two chords, which are a world of difference in how they sound together, is one half step.
wow.
One part, one note, one half step. So it's even showing you that the smallest of changes, if you start making small changes, that you can turn that minor chord or that sad or, or negative sounding chord into a happy chord, into a bright chord. And that can work even in our families or in our companies.
You know what a brilliant message. That everything doesn't have to be rewritten, redone, started over, rebooted. It's making the minor and truly minor, one minor change in a three-step process, the middle one. I did take piano lessons, so I know about
Yeah.
I know a little, I know more about music than I can deliver musically. So you mentioned corporate. There's kind of a universal, I think a transferable message there that you were saying. Did I get it that even in the corporate world, music aside, it's those minor little changes, the tweaks,
Exactly.
the
And
tweak.
another great example in tracking, and I actually get to, whenever I work with a group, whether it's like a team building type of exercise or get to do a keynote in front of an audience of non-singers, of
Mhm.
business people, one of the other cool ideas behind it is that your own individuality is not as it's not as important as the greater good, right?
Right.
And so there's a cool thing called overtones or undertones in harmony. And if a chord is really perfect and it locks, say you have this chord, bum bum bum, but there's a group that is singing it so in tune and so perfectly well, you will actually get an extra note that no one is singing, bum or bum. There are undertones and overtones when you master it, when you're
So
really in the zone.
I'm thinking that when you're listening to a pianist, that oftentimes the piece ends with either one high or one low key.
And a lot of times, particularly with the human voice, no one even sang the note.
No,
No
no.
one sang it. It's almost a grand, amazing thing. It's a phenomenon that
It's like
happens.
putting an exclamation point at the
It
end of an
is.
exciting sentence. It's
And And so the overall effect is so much greater than the individual parts put together if you're really working together. But it doesn't happen often. It's like whenever it happens, even in a rehearsal, everybody goes, "Whoa, did you feel
Whoa.
that?" Because it vibrates the room. And that's
And
an
again,
overtone or an undertone.
music aside, universal messages there is that in this very myopic world, the me mentality is that we are all part of, no one wants to truly be alone. I mean, that's, I would never want to be alone. So you're either with just one other person, your spouse, what have you, a family, a workplace, your house of worship, where you live, your community. It's that one person can throw things off,
Hmm.
and the opposite, because opposite, what is it in physics? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. One person can bring it back.
Exactly. And it's almost the effect when everything is firing on all cylinders, as they say, it's almost divine. It
And
feels
that's
like it
harmony.
reverberates.
That's what harmony is. Forget the musical connotation of harmony. Don't we think of harmony as peacefully surviving together in a
Well, the
harmonious
Greek the
way?
Greek word is actually the Greek word for harmony, harmonia is actually in one accord, in agreement. So it
And
doesn't even in the Greek.
still the word chord is there. Still the word chord, accord.
Yeah, accord. That's exactly
I
right.
love it. I love
Another
it.
really fun idea behind it um is in a musical chord, there will be one part that's really important to the sound of the chord and another part that we call a color note. Sometimes it is a lovely sound, but it needs to be lower in volume and it needs to be placed just right.
Hmm.
And if it's placed just right, it makes the overall effect beautiful and gorgeous. But if you sing a color note as loudly as the melody note, it can be ugly. It can be dissonant. But if
Yes.
you sing a color note in that perfect balance and you know your role and you are being a support and not taking a lead when you shouldn't be taking the lead, the overall effect is so much stronger for everyone.
Another universal message: know your role.
Know your part, know your role, and when you're supposed to be a supporting player or a supporting character, it's finesse. I always talk about even those color notes, they require finesse. And in our lives, whether it's as a family or in the corporate world as a team, we need to know when we are playing that supportive role and when we are actually taking the lead and being more out front.
Right, right. Know your lane, stay in your lane, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and always be willing to learn. That's where I come from. If I learn something, and oh my gosh, how much have I learned already in speaking with you? That takes me to a thought that I read about on your site, which by the way is shalisajames.com. Just as you see Shalisa's name here.com. You must go there because it's entertaining. It's entertaining. It's brilliantly entertaining and beautiful, really beautiful. Share with us your mantra because I was reading it and I was saying, yes, yes, yes. Tell us your mantra.
um, I have a few different ones. My family says it's everything all the time and go.
That's good.
But
What I'm referring to was
I
on your site where it said, and then I'll let you take it from there, that
mhm.
it's never too late to start
Right.
something.
I have an album that I recorded in 2020. I did so many albums as a group. I had 5 albums with Toxic Audio, Vox Audio, and I'm super proud of it. Grammy nominated. We won several awards in the a cappella community. Even before pentatonics was a thing, we were like kind of the pioneers for all of that contemporary a cappella, and I love it, and I was proud of it. But I didn't have anything that was just me, just my voice. And during the 2020 pandemic, I wanted to put musicians to work, and I wanted to create a solo project that I could put a stamp on and say was my own. And so during that, I really felt like as a person, I am still evolving. I turned 50 in 2020. And people say, "Oh, it's never too late." Not only is it never too late, I'm better than I was. I'm better than I was when I was 40. I'm better than I was when I was 30. And so not only is it not too late, no matter what your age might be,
No,
we should always be evolving and
yes,
learning and improving ourselves. And I don't believe, whenever I hear someone talk about age and, oh, well, it's just because I'm getting older now and all this, I'm I'm improving all the time. And not only am I striving to improve, I'm telling myself that I'm improving all the time. And so I think that's half the battle is telling yourself, no, you're not going to take a back seat just because you
no,
turned a certain birthday.
no, no, no,
You
no. And I want to tell
Sky's your
you
limit.
that that's not only your thought. Hip Hop Magazine is quoted as saying, and I quote, Shalisa is at the best she's ever been.
I
Hip Hop
love that.
Magazine. Hip Hop
I
Magazine. They can't be wrong.
And I really believe that. My range is better as a singer. My understanding, I mean, experience of being, on a Broadway stage, on a Vegas stage, on TV, on the radio, in front of audiences, even getting to share my message and speak with people. I'm meeting new people all the time. I'm evolving as a businesswoman. I have accounts and things for my production company that I would not have dreamed of 10 years ago and
You
20
know,
years ago.
yeah. Talk to us, if you will, please, about the production company and how. Well, talk to us about that, and then I'll get back in.
My husband and I met singing together, and
Oh, beautiful.
we were singing for a small company that specialized in vocal music, and that was in the 90s. So when we were on the road touring a lot with our group with Toxic Audio and started having kids, and we wanted to have something in Orlando that we could call our own, we actually bought the company that we met singing through, and we really have grown it. I think it's at least 50 times as big as it used to be.
Oh, wow.
When you look at the numbers, we really expanded it to being a national service. We produce groups at Universal Orlando. We produce groups for Universal Hollywood. We've produced groups. We just had groups this week at Disney and at Busch Gardens. We did 800 events last year.
Oh my goodness.
So we produce bands, vocal groups. We specialize in music, but we also have dancers, production numbers. And so, like, if there's a corporate event, a lot of times you might see our talent on a corporate stage, but we have our own rehearsal studio. We do like video webinars, and we also do jingles, which is fun.
Jingles,
So we have
jingles.
our own recording studio and video studio, and so yeah, it's Entertainment Central Productions out of Orlando.
And yes, and we're going to get people linked to that. So let me ask you something. Well, you just explained a lot about who would your client be? Who is your avatar? Someone who's looking to produce music, dance. How can the corporate world engage with you?
The corporate world really already uses entertainment as infotainment sometimes at their meetings, whether it's production numbers that what we like to do. Sometimes it's just production numbers that get everybody pumped up, and that's fine, and we do that. Vocalists or dancer flash mob, fun things on the stage, people, uh, drummers, people, doing teeter boards and jumping in the air. We do all that fun stuff. But what we really like doing and what my husband and I specialize in is bringing their corporate message into that entertainment. So we enjoy having conversations early with meeting planners where we can incorporate whatever their goals are for that year, whatever they're sharing that's new and motivating. Sometimes it's new products, sometimes it's new statistics or a new sales directive. We've done hundreds of events where we put their messaging into song lyrics, for example. Sometimes we produce it in our studio, sometimes we get people out to sing live. So my message that I've been sharing is kind of an extension of that corporate entertainment world
Mm,
that we work a lot in already because corporations, you can sit through boring slideshows and meetings and PowerPoints and everything, but you really do need things to hang your hat on. And for someone to come in and work with your team, whether it's sharing ideas like this on the stage, producing musical numbers, it's a great way to engage and for them to actually remember. Because, like you said, you go away singing a jingle, they'll go away remembering the messaging of whatever song they might have seen with the special messaging, or even this keynote where I get to share and get the audience even singing a little bit with me. And
Fun.
when you can experience for yourself the power in the room of people, and they don't need to be singers. Like, nobody needs to be nervous about that part because it ends up sounding really great when you have a room full of
What, yeah,
people
yeah,
and
when
I'm
people drown you
e
out.
exactly, and I'm working with them and sharing, having them sing just a couple of little things to illustrate this. It's really powerful.
And I love that because I think, like we say, beliefs experience passions. It could be beliefs and passions, but it's what goes in between those. The experience is what you believe. You create the experience that reflects your passion. You move it forward. It keeps your passion growing, and sharing it with other people becomes part of personal and or corporate branding,
Exactly.
which,
Otherwise, it's just words. But when you're feeling those words through music, even if you are not in any way, shape, or form a singer, when you're experiencing that yourself through music, listening to it or singing in this team building type of exercise with me, it is
yeah.
a completely different ballgame because you will remember what you actually walk through and experience.
So, what can an individual do to engage with you? How can, if it's possible, even for an individual to engage with you?
Sure, you could reach out to me. I do some personal and professional coaching. This is a really fun coaching thing that I do regularly. I work with the WWE, if you can believe that, the wrestlers. I work with some of the wrestlers and the MCs on their messaging being powerful. I work with vocalists that are professional vocalists, and I work with leaders, with corporate leaders. So, yeah, so I would love
What do
to,
you do for the
yeah.
WWE?
Pardon?
What do you do with and for the
I
WWE?
I vocal coach and help message coach with them, their content and their to make them more powerful.
Oh, you mean when
Their
they
MC
go in the ring and they tell you
their
yeah.
MCs, I work with their MCs very regularly. I'm kind of part of their when they launch them and are first coaching them to get out in the professional world. They work with me, and then I also work with some of the wrestlers who need help because maybe their voice messaging is not matching their physical strength.
Yeah.
So I get to work with them on how to better communicate.
You know, the things you don't think of, but those things, yeah, you can't have a big burly guy who then says, I'm the champion, he has to have, as you say,
That
the tone has
presence.
to match the body. And um,
Exactly.
yeah, oh, that makes so much sense. And I think
It's
we've all
so
heard
fun.
some of those people that you look at them and then they speak and you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Even in reverse, you could see like a little tiny woman sometimes, and then she booms, it's like,
Right.
it's got to match. It's got to
It
match.
does.
Deliver a message.
It does, and they are trying to communicate strength and communicate even intimidation sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
and so it's really connecting your voice and your words with your intention and your message.
And I always say that the message and the mission have to match. The messaging, how you deliver your mission, it has to match. Otherwise, you kind of lose the credibility or diminish it, lower the potential for as much credibility as possible.
That's
It's
right.
so much. Okay, I'm a fan of the voice contest, the singing contest shows. Big fan because I love music so much. If they had a show about competitive wallpaper hangers, I would probably watch that. Why? Because I can't hang wallpaper. So I admire anybody who can do well something that I can't do at all. I have such respect for their skill set. Okay, so wallpaper hanging, I don't know how many episodes did you watch, but singing because it is so powerful when they're talking, when the coaches, who are all very, very accomplished, well known artists, are critiquing and giving feedback, the terms that they use, the science that I call it behind music, when they're talking about I didn't want to misspeak
Like
anything, but
vibrato, breath support.
yes, that
Yeah.
and this range, that range, the I'm trying to think of some of them.
Your head
Because
voice, your mix, your,
oh,
yeah, your
oh
chest
my,
voice.
the
Yeah.
bridge, the what are the other, the hook, things that maybe we know more. But there's so much. There is a bit of a science behind music. There's an order of events, just like there's do re mi, and how you
Right.
arrange them.
Well,
Produce.
there's actual vocal technique, and I studied classically in college, which is super helpful for anybody, even if you never want to sing opera in your life. It's just kind of the foundation, and it's vocal pedagogy is what they call it. But there's a whole world out there of instruction that those coaches have tapped into, I'm sure, during their careers, even if they didn't go to school for it, because you need it for longevity.
Yeah.
To be able to sustain, whether you're on Broadway 8 shows a week or doing a concert every single night, there's wear and tear if you're not doing it correctly. And so that's really a lot of, we can tap into our power too. Like our resonance comes from here. They call it the mask, but it comes from here. And so like right now I'm not using my mask, and now I'm using my mask. I'm exaggerating, but
Oh,
it's the resonant part of your face cavity. So there's all kinds of things you can tap into for getting your sound from your support center in your abdomen all the way up to your face.
so
And your
there's a
face is,
lot, right? So it's not just here.
it's
It's really.
mostly here to here. And
Oh,
without this getting in the way. You actually want this as relaxed as possible and out of the way.
oh.
Isn't that neat?
Is there anybody who cannot learn to sing better?
I've worked with people that consider themselves tone deaf, like I told you, and usually I'm tapping into them hearing, uh, just wanting to sing in more of a mid-range and not expand, or to singing a harmony that they're hearing, but it's not quite in tune. I've worked with people that I've improved every single person. I don't think anybody, like, not just anybody can get to a professional level.
Oh,
And I
no.
do think certain voices are like fingerprints, where some are just going to be more pleasant and pleasing to the ear than others. But there are even ways to dial that. Like whenever I'm coaching somebody, I pretend they have dials on them and I'm like, I need your mid highs turned up a little bit, or I need your lows. So there are things you can do even to improve the fingerprint.
Just so the family enjoys you more, if nothing else. Just so
Exactly.
they don't tell you to stop singing.
So your happy birthday is better.
So my happy birthday is better. For me, it's funny. Some people have said you really have a nice range. For me, I
Wow.
think the louder I sing, the better.
Well, it might be because you feel more supported, because your support is kicking in, where if you're singing quieter, it's not as supported. So yeah,
Maybe,
you
maybe.
probably do sound better louder.
And I think it's has something to do with my own personal animation. Is that you match it. Animation, that's a word I just brought into the conversation. You're very familiar with animation as well. Animation has become such a huge box office sensation, great for delivering beautiful messaging, especially for children. A lot of, what's the moral of the story? What was the lesson? What have you done in animation?
Our company does animation. I am not personally a gifted animator, but it's really funny that you mentioned that, because my sister, I have a half sister who's 21. So she's part of this like up and coming YouTube, TikTok, all that, as platforms, and she has her own animation channel of original content that she draws and creates, and my sons write the music for her
Oh my
and do the
God.
voice, and the 3 of them, well, they do the tracks and she does the voiceover work for it. So this
That's
next
great.
generation is coming up with that, but as a company, we do produce animation and use that platform because it really is, it's eye-catching, and it's a
Mhm.
great way to get good song content out too.
And so memorable. You just can't forget animation.
And the
What?
songs that are coming from films that are animated, whether they're Disney or DreamWorks or all those, they really are some of the best songs we've had in the last 10, 20 years, because they have to be melodic. A lot of songs right now that are more DJ driven don't have strong melodies. They have great rhythms, but they don't have
Mm.
melodies with a lot of range, so they're not as singable. Where a lot of the animation films that are coming out have really singable songs, which is great.
And have created great stars. I'm thinking of Let It Go. You know, how many times do people sing those three words? I don't want to sing it and embarrass myself, but you know, let it go.
Let it go.
Ta-da! There you go. Let it go. How many times do people just use that, you know, in regular conversation, but they sing it?
And a lot of our groups, our a cappella groups that our company produces, sing the songs of Disney and Trolls and all that because we are here in Orlando. And so we have a lot of events out at Universal and Disney, and those songs are all so singable that we end up doing them even for adult corporate events because Can't Stop the Feeling, Happy, like all those are
Happy. Yep.
super fun
Yep.
songs.
Yep. Who was your, other than your parents, of course, who was your idol when you were a child and coming into your own as a professional singer? Who was your idol?
I would have to say I have four, and I'm
Four?
proud of all four because they're all really good. They're good studies and they're pop singers. They all had really good vocal technique, and I'm glad that they were the ones that I kind of chose to mimic. Linda Ronstadt and Olivia Newton-John when I
Oh,
was very little in the 70s. And then as a teen, I really loved Whitney Houston.
oh.
And especially her early years, she really, to me, she was the greatest of all time. She was the
I
GOAT.
I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that statement.
Yeah, just
You know,
the emotional, she packs the emotional punch
oh,
with the message, and she had great vocal technique. So, and the fourth one, who is a master at bridging your chest to your head voice as a vocalist, therefore expanding your range, is Barbara Streisand.
oh
I
well.
just I was flipped over Streisand. And so those four are the ones that I really studied and went to school on, and I'm glad because they all have a lot to offer and are they deliver all four of them what they have in common is they deliver the message with the lyrics and with the meaning so they're not
Yes.
detached. It's not just sometimes we sing for the sake of singing, it's just a
No.
but they're like, oh, they're
Oh
they're
no.
digging in.
I say the same thing in church. Like if someone's doing a reading, I'm a snob. I would because I'm a lector as well, and they're reading it. And I'm echoing the words in my own head, but they sound very different. It's a difference between reading something, you know, blah, 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 word for word, just as in prayer, how you say repetitious things because we know the words, but you've got to tell the story.
Exactly, and you have to feel it. I have to believe you.
You have to make it, you have to make a listener and including yourself, because when you're praying, you are hearing yourself like you've never heard it before, and that it transcends the words itself, that it's so much bigger than just a string of words. And that's what I do. And I've had people in church turn around and say, "Oh, I wanted to see. Oh, it's you. Now I get it because how I left
Because
it
you mean it and you feel
because
it.
you're telling a story."
And if you're really connecting with the story and with the music, think about it. We don't have a lot of spoken things that we memorize as humans. School makes us memorize the Canterbury Tales or, the Pledge of Allegiance, but how many song lyrics do we have in our heads?
Oh, you're right. It's a universal language. I have to go back to Whitney Houston. We have to give Whitney her props, as she so deserves, because I remember in her lifetime, it was not after her passing, but in her lifetime, her voice was referred to as a national treasure.
It's true, especially when she first came out in the 80s and she was so young, but
Yes.
just had this gorgeous instrument. And a lot of times with a young singer, you're not connecting with the lyrics. And she immediately,
Oh,
just on that first album, she came from a gospel background, which I
yeah.
think helped her
So many
connect.
do. So many do.
But she felt every single lyric, and it just I was 14 when her first album dropped, and I was blown away, and I feel like she just contributed so much to for female vocalists.
So much. And I know that on the going back to the singing contest shows, when someone does a Whitney Houston song, the judges always kind of they just say that's a brave thing to do.
I actually covered Whitney on my album. Um,
Oh,
I did. I covered her on my album. I have the 5 Decades album that I, mentioned I
I
recorded in
saw that,
2020.
yes.
It's all covers except for one original song, which I wrote in the 90s. Everything else is covers from the 70s. I covered Olivia Newton-John
Oh,
from the 70s, and then I covered, a Whitney song as part of 80s, but it's from the 70s to today,
like,
or
what
actually to 2019,
yeah,
because it's
what
the 5 decades of my life.
I saw that, and I want to tell viewers, if you go again to Shalisa James, just as you see her name here.com, you actually have the opportunity to buy that album.
That's right, and it's also on Spotify and Apple Tunes. It's on really all the major platforms, Shalisa, 5 Decades. But, the Whitney song I covered was "You Give Good Love" because it was her very first hit, so I felt a little bit brave, but it's it's
And I
definitely my
remember,
own rendition.
I believe that children are our future. I believe, teach them
It's the one
love
that,
and
it's "You Give Good Love
yeah, oh
to
no.
me."
I used to
Yeah, it's
listen
really
to her in
fun.
the car all the time on the little, the little cassettes and everything. And oh my gosh, did you love the movie Bodyguard?
Yes. Yes, and her national anthem has still yet
Oh,
to ever be topped. And I'm proud to say that was in '91 in Tampa Stadium, so it was a Florida historical moment.
yes, it was. And I know that President Bush went out, he said he had never heard the song, none of us had never heard it sung like that. And I always listen when watch a lot of sports. If someone is going to finish it the way she did by bringing it down, very
Yep,
dare to do that because no one could do it the way she did it.
but bringing it back to chords and harmony, even though it was instrumental, the chord she used underneath it was flat 6, flat 7, 1, which means probably nothing to you, but it was really different at the time, but it became iconic. The chord she used to support that last "brave," the chords underneath it are they were really incredible
Oh, it was
and new,
amazing.
and now every time we do the anthem, I make sure that flat 6, flat 7,
Yes,
1
it did
chord
adjust
progression's in.
which is not an easy song to sing at all. And I always think
I
it's
get
easier.
nervous for people when I think they start
So
it
do
too
I,
high
especially the
because
children and the little, oh, and
I've
I
seen
think
people crash and burn.
it's easier, I think, to sing it a cappella because then if you go off a little bit, you're not matching music. No one kind of knows. You can kind of improvise. But I do take exception sometimes when people during big games and we're all watching improvise the national anthem to such an extreme that it's like, that's our national anthem? Really? I didn't recognize a lot of it. But Whitney,
No, Whitney's was it was the perfect
yes,
balance of innovative, and yet it was still she stuck to the melody, and a lot
and
of
with the
times
oh, no, that was a
with
moment. I remember exactly where I was and who I was with. It's one of those moments because it took our breath away. So President Bush went out or sent his minions out, I guess, to buy as many copies of that as could be found the day after the Super Bowl and was just giving them out to everybody in the White House. Like, this
wow,
is it. This is the epitome of our anthem. And
it really was.
yeah,
There's a part of the Smithsonian dedicated to it.
is there?
It's in the Smithsonian in DC.
I haven't been down to DC well, at least in the
It's next to the
Smithsonian.
flag. It shows
Well,
her next to the flag, and it has, like, a blurb about it being just the most iconic time, so
it is,
she
and yet
really is
the
the
tragedy, yeah, the tragedy of her, what she accomplished and what we can imagine was still yet to come.
she
You
really is the
know,
greatest.
she really is the greatest. And you know what we say, BEP Talks is in association with the Global Society of Empowered Women. And we always say, may the best always be yet to come. And that's why I think your mantra resonated with me because no matter where you are, no matter what's behind you, is beautiful. That's behind you. Those are your memories, those are your experiences. That's what creates your wisdom. But what's ahead of you? So I always say, may the best always be yet to come, and to dare to dream that it is possible, because it totally is.
That's right.
It totally is. I want to let people know. So we've told them, Shalisa, I could just talk to you all day, but I know based on what you're telling me, your company is so um, departmentalized and so many different products and possibilities
That's
that
right.
you offer people. I want to tell people I want to show them, bear with me one second. I want to put something up here which will show people exactly where they can just go right here and press that button, and that will connect them to Entertainment Central, which is the company that you, and I love that you and your husband are doing it together, still living harmoniously. How
We
beautiful.
do, and it's fun. And speaking of harmony, even with our family, one of the like core memories of our kids growing up is we would always sing in four-part harmony on road trips. And our daughter also sings. I'd mentioned our daughter is a doctor. I haven't mentioned on the broadcast, but you and I had mentioned she's a doctor. She was a professional singer through college, and then she went to med school. So she grew up singing, and then my two sons are entertainers, and my son's an actor and a musician and singer, and he lives in New York, and the other is a screenwriter who sings and occasionally sings for our company in LA. And so the five of us together, they grew up singing, and everywhere we go, even if it's sitting around on, Thanksgiving or Christmas or, singing, on road trips, we all have a blast singing in harmony.
You know, what every family dreams of just, the family groups that were around the Jacksons, um, uh, the Osmonds, lots of family groups that are just forever in our minds and our hearts, and that the songs just keep coming out. When you hear a few notes, you can just go with it. You haven't heard it in years and years, and yet still
That's what
bring
we
it
do.
out and
That's
put it.
literally what we do for fun.
Oh, and yeah, yeah. Don't invite me on a road trip because you might be jumping out the windows. I cannot thank you enough. This conversation exceeded my every expectation, which was very high to begin with. I must
Well,
tell you, because
yay.
you are such a unicorn and you are so talented and so personable that
Thanks, Beth.
you make it fun. And I thank you because I learned so much from you and lots of takeaways. And I want everyone just to go here. We have it right here on the screen. It'll be on our YouTube channel. You can go, so that Shalisa is always available to you, your company. She does coaching, the productions, animations. She might sing you a jingle or two. So I thank you so much for being an extremely unique, well, you're a unicorn. There you. And to the listening and viewing audience, I thank you as always for sticking with us. And for you to become a guest like Shalisa, go to beptalks.com and see how you can become a guest and share your beliefs, your experiences, your passions. Share what you love about being the proud mama of your children, your entertainers, and your doctor child, and
Mhm.
share that with the world, because it's a story that deserves to be shared, deserves to be heard. And as I said earlier, as we always say, may the best always be yet to come. So until we talk
Uh,
again, bye for now.
Thank you, Beth.